and welcome back to PGTV. I'm Katie Beck, and today we're going online because with the ever-changing landscape of how business is done here in Washington, digital strategy has become an increasingly important facet of any smart public affairs campaign. And I'm joined today by our resident expert on the subject, a former social media strategist at the U.S. Department of State, now Director of Digital Media here at Podesta Group, Andy Amsler. Thanks so much for joining us, Andy. So, let's start with the basics. Obviously, the idea of incorporating an online component to buttress any PR or public affairs campaign is not particularly new. But with so many domestic organizations, and as we've seen here at the firm, international sovereigns and global clients, kind of, putting a toe in the sometimes daunting social media waters, what should be top of mind for those trying to get the most bang for their buck when investing in digital strategy?
Sure. I think most clients come to us and they have an understanding that they need to be doing something online. And we agree with that, but we help focus those efforts to what really matters. So for clients, when they come in, what we start with is understanding not only what their goals are, but who their audiences are, who the important elements are or people are that will help get them to their goals in the long run, and then help them design a strategy around that. A lot of times clients get overwhelmed with the options in terms of what they can do in the digital space. You don't always need a Facebook page. You don't always need a website. But you do need to have a smart strategy behind every goal that you're implementing. And I think that applies across the board in terms of public relations activities. So when we look at what we do for our clients, every client matter issue is unique to that client. So what we really look to do is design a set of strategies that are applicable to those specific goals. And that starts with understanding who the audience is. So we look at their issue and say, here's the audience that matters most to you. And from that, we decide who are the most influential people in that group, and how do we reach those people. And reaching them is not always going to be the same across the board. So we really try to focus in on the things that matter the most for that specific audience. In some cases, it's going to be using Twitter to reach journalists. In other cases, it's going to be direct outreach to thought leaders to get them talking about a specific issue or client. And really, we want to help our clients understand what are the 1 to 10 things that they need to really focus on doing, and not try to kind of conquer the world in terms of the digital media landscape.
So, no doubt, easier said than done. And as you've already sort of done, just kind of quickly walk us through the mechanics of what you mean, and how should organizations define success generally, and what are some of the best tactics to ensuring it?
Sure. Well, with every client that we work with in the digital space, we really start with research. So we want to understand, based on their audiences and their various goals, like I mentioned, what it is that is being said about them online. Is it good things? Is it bad things? What are the goals here that we're trying to accomplish with those conversations that are happening online? And from there, we can determine, the 50 to 100 people who are going to matter most for that conversation online. I think a lot of people get caught up in the fact of, you need 1 million Twitter followers to make an imprint on that platform. But on any given issue, there's going to be 50 to 100 people who are the most influential people online that can carry your message much farther than you'd be able to yourself. So our goal is really to zero in through research and understanding kind of those conversations, who those people are. And then from there, design a strategy around that. So after we understand who the audience is that we're trying to reach, we look and find who the influencers are that are going to reach them. And then we design the strategy to understand what we need to put in place to get to those people that are going to reach those audiences, that will ultimately get us to the goal. So sometimes that means putting up a website that speaks to the economic impact of an issue or a company even. Sometimes that means designing a program that we implement on social media, attention-grabbing content that we put across social media profiles to reach very specific people. Sometimes that means just direct outreach to bloggers and other kind of thought leaders in the online space to get them talking about something or educate them on a matter. Each kind of strategy depends on the client, of course, but for the most part, that's kind of the logical evolution of what we follow in terms of the strategies we look to implement. In terms of what matters for clients, we help our clients understand that it's not often a number of Facebook likes or the number of tweets that really matters for a client in the digital space. Those are good numbers to show kind of a shifting momentum if there's something, a challenge at foot. But what we really look is we look to dive deeper into those metrics to understand, of the people following us on Twitter, how many people are talking about us? How many people are actually sharing the content that we put out? And that is all very trackable in terms of the metrics that we put in place at the start of every program. And how many of those people are those influencers, those influential people that are going to mean something for the end goal? And that kind of applies for every platform, every web strategy we put in place. That's really about engagement, and that's kind of a buzzword in the digital digital community, but it's an important word because it goes beyond just numbers. It's about share of voice. It's about interactions. It's about people actually believing in what you're saying and kind of internalizing what you're saying. Because we know that in the online space, there's so much clutter out there that people trust what their friends say. So in terms of getting people to trust the messages we put out, it's best said by people's friends or the people that they feel comfortable having validation from. So that interaction comes in the form of engagement, shares on Facebook, likes on Facebook, retweets or tweets about something that are original. All those things are engagement factors that we look at that go beyond just the raw numbers.
So, you mentioned website design, and obviously with that becomes the need for content. So, with so much content out there competing for stakeholders' attention on any given issue, what are some tips for organizations to create content that actually resonates?
Sure. Well, content in our mind is kind of the essential building block for any digital media campaign. And you're absolutely right that there's a lot out there. And people get overwhelmed with the content they see online. They're seeing content from their friends. They're seeing content from brands. They're seeing content everywhere they look. Online, there's something that people are seeing that we consider content. So we help our clients think about what are the things that are going to grab the attention of people, and specifically the right people. There are some basic things we do that make that content better than the content that others are seeing. So things like including visuals is really important. Asking questions, providing context to a community that makes it more receptive to your message. So every audience has a different intention and things that it's going to pay attention to. So we design our content strategies around the audience and with that specific person in mind that we're trying to reach, and help our clients think about how do we create some attention-grabbing content. The did you knows are always great. People love to interact with lists and read lists and share lists. All those things go into our understanding of what makes good content, but ultimately it's going to vary audience by audience. And what we do is set up a variety of content with our clients in mind and test that and understand what specifically the audience we're trying to reach is going to be receptive to, and do more of that.
So, of course, despite the fact that what we're seeing now is that brands truly have nowhere to hide. There are plenty of organizations who still shy away from social media and any sort of digital strategy at all because they maybe either don't understand it or perhaps fear it. So what would you say to an organization who has a clear policy agenda and no online presence?
Sure. I think for brands that are, cautious about taking that step into the digital space, it's very important to understand that if they've got an issue they're advocating on, if they've got a policy goal, there's most certainly a conversation already happening about that online. If they're not part of that conversation, someone else will be, and someone else probably already is. So it's important for them to at least listen. So understand what it is that's being said about their brand, being said about this specific issue. And that will give a clearer sense of what the online community thinks about them or thinks about this particular issue. But it will also help kind of move them along in terms of engaging. So, understanding that there's a huge community around an issue can be a very powerful force internally to get people to move down the path of actually using strategies that fall under the digital media strategy set. And I think that's really, those first steps of understanding what it is that's being said about something can really provide a lot of impetus for eventually moving into the digital space.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your insight. And for more strategy and perspectives, either online or off, keep your eyes on the PG pipeline.